We're live from LA, take two, meaning day two of the crazy marathon of interviews. I'm hoping it's over, meaning not another 16. Well, I have 3 scheduled so far. 2 great famous people and an up-and-coming superstar. And when I was talking to people about this whole event and things like that, who would think that I'd have a Real Housewife that just said, I want to come to LA to see you. So GJ made it happen. Mary Amons, Real Housewives of DC. Thanks again for stopping by the studio, the makeshift studio here in LA.
I love it. It's a beautiful setting.
Oh, it's a phenomenal setting, and it's really a great opportunity to have the conversation with you.
Yeah.
But I've taken a lot of stars yesterday, and I've really gone to the childhood because we've talked about all your upcoming projects. We're all keeping our fingers crossed for certain things, the great things that you're doing after Real Housewives, but I want to know your childhood. I want to know what's going on with you. What's happening with Mary when she was a child that's led to where you are today, a brand. So let's go specifically to growing up. How did you kind of want to be an actress? You wanted to be involved in radio. Who were your influences as a child? And at 6 years old, did you have a mic in your hand? Or what would you say? Or you were the kind of person that was running around and doing all that?
No, I would have to say, being the oldest of 7 kids, I had a baby in my hand, helping my mother raise her kids.
That might be like my daughter Ava at 4. She might end up being like.
I come from an amazing, loving, nurturing home. My mother is a superhero and has been an incredible model to me as a mother and a wife I come from a servant-hearted woman, and I have just embraced who she is, and hopefully I can be the same mother to my children as she is as I am to my kids. But I have to say that my journey, because we're all on a journey, my childhood was one that was so surrounded by love and so surrounded by support, and it's a very strange phenomenon that my mother, who was the daughter of a very famous person, he had them growing up in rural Virginia, where he was like the most famous person in radio and television in the 50s,
right,
going back and forth from New York. She grew up going to public school. She was on a farm. She was a fox hunter. She grew up in a very, very down-to-earth, normal environment.
Yeah.
Studied to be a nurse, became a full-time nurse, and my dad is from the West Coast, and he went from playing football at USC out to Georgetown Law School, and that's where they met. And a year later, I was born. But I have the blessing of having grown up in a very loving home, like I said, with this legacy, this entertainment legacy, that my mother actually kind of downplayed.
Okay.
Because she's so down to earth, and she's not all caught up in fame and the superficialness of being famous. I think she, in a sense, kind of shunned it in a way, and just she's very humble and just likes to lay low and doesn't like to be part of hoopla and all of that.
It sounds a little bit like you. You say you don't call yourself a celebrity.
Well, that's one thing that I have to say, that you keep referring to me as a star, and I'm like, I think we're all stars in our own right, But for me to be called a star, it's something that I've really had a hard time digesting and really accepting that people put me on this pedestal. But I have to say, it's an honor. It's something I take with just such humility, to have an opportunity to be an influencer and to inspire people. And so I'm actually writing a book about my journey, and a lot of it is going to have to do with my childhood.
I can give a teaser in a way, or give you ideas of, now I can put this in my book, because as we know, writing a book.
Yes.
I just met with one of the top publishers in LA yesterday about possibly where I'm going with my book, because I'm in the book journey right now, and it's it's gotten a standstill. And now I put a timeline for an education tips book for the first book. I've interviewed a lot of authors who tell me that I need to write a memoir, but I'm at that point, and she's like, well, I can help you get published. And before, I was just thinking self-published. So it's the process. So you're now, in this interview, can look back and say, that'll be a good part to put. And Neil maybe asked the right questions that get
that's exactly what's happening. And I really didn't have any idea that embarking on writing your story is so therapeutic, because especially if I'm working with a woman out here in LA who's going to help me collaborate, and she's a transformational coach.
Okay.
So she's literally coaching this
Almost
book.
a life coach?
Yes, yes. But she helps people transform themselves. She primarily works with wealthy people, helping them find their true purpose beyond their money.
Right.
Because a lot of people that are wealthy are very unhappy. Very
Yes,
lost and
yes.
unhappy. So she's literally drawing this book out of me, and we've had some meetings out here in LA where it's gotten to the point where I've been very emotional, because she's asking me all these questions, getting me thinking about my inner child my childhood experiences, and it's really making me become very aware of the gift that I have in growing up in the family that I did.
And I think it's so important. That's why I want my children to see that my wife, again, was an actress. It's not like in school. She almost was in the Marissa Tomei movie when she was in 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
So she was involved in all that stuff, did all the plays, different things like that. And myself, former professional wrestler, and now I guess doing a bunch of other things as a radio host.
Yeah.
I'm learning all these different things. I want our kids to be involved in that, to understand that, because a lot of people don't get the opportunity to be in front of that, to understand and learn from that. So let's go first with your grandfather. What kind of advice do you offer you as a child to say, you know what, Mary, you might have something here?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, of your siblings, did anybody else go your path?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that my grandfather was Arthur Godfrey, and he was one of the pioneers of the radio and television business. In fact, the way he really was embraced and got to be so famous and well known was he was really one of the first people on the radio to express himself and his opinions and his feelings and emotions.
And very interesting.
Yes, because back then in the 40s, radio was very canned and scripted.
Very scripted.
And everyone had a very deliberate voice.
Kind of
exactly.
Voice
Exactly. And there wasn't a whole lot of honesty and truth being. It was a lot of, there was entertainment going on, and there was a lot of news being delivered. And he really, to me, is like the father of reality television too.
Interesting,
When he parlayed his career, when television first came to be, he would do commercials live. And he would have a product where he was endorsing a product like Lipton soup, for instance.
Yes.
And he would do, a taste on live TV and ask the viewers if they find chicken in the soup to let him know, and it's chicken noodle soup. And so
he was one of the first pitchmen.
He was one of the first pitchmen, but he was also one of the first endorsers that spoke the honest truth about the product, whether it was good and bad.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh! What did the sponsors think of that?
And they loved him because he sold it. He sold it from his honesty. So he was very inspirational to me. And I really didn't even know it at the time. I mean, you don't really understand where your influence is really coming until you get a handle on who you are and where you're going. But I remember, and I spent a lot of time with him. I'm the oldest grandchild, and he passed away when I was 18. So I had a lot of special memories with him. But one memory specifically that is going to be an opener to my book, which is now, in a roundabout way, answering your question. I had a beautiful opportunity to sit and have lunch with him one spring day out on his farm. And it's such a vivid, colorful memory. I was 9.
Oh, okay.
And it was a unique opportunity to be alone with him because, there were all these kids running around. Anyway, we sat out and I had lunch, and I can remember specifically like the lily pads in the pond that were there, and the koi fish, and what we were eating. And
you wouldn't think that of a celebrity star that did very well for himself to have just that kind of environment.
It was one of those really tender moments that I'll never forget, and it was very pivotal to me, where I sat and I had an opportunity, and he was asking me what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Oh, that's a great question.
And I said, well, Pop, I'd really love to be an actress. And he literally choked on his food, going, oh no, really? Don't tell me this, because he had some experiences in the business in his career that just kind of turned him off to the industry, and got burned a little bit. Anyway, he goes, this business is the most brutal business you could ever consider. It's full of rejection.
Yes.
It's full of, it doesn't matter if you have talent.
Exactly.
It's all about who you know and all, where you are at the right time. And I said, but Pop-Up, it really is my dream to be an actress. And he said, well, in that case, that's good, but learn to enunciate and speak clearly.
But see,
that will carry you.
It's very surprising that your grandfather would just be that blunt with you.
Yeah.
Because, and you see this at 9 years old. Whoa, I'm going to be critiqued. If I'm going to get involved in this business, I'm going to have to understand this. And that's as brutal as professional wrestling business is. And if I told anyone to get involved in it, it's not. But I think if I would go back, I'd say I'd be an actor.
Yeah.
I am an entertainer at heart, and giving up entertainment for a while, I can never do that again. It's just like I'm hooked. But so that's very interesting. So from that, what did that just take you off in a way to say I'm going to be involved in certain things?
Took his advice very soundly, and it was always something that I had tucked back in my heart and as a desire, and always a dream. And then in the 6th grade, I had an opportunity. I was in public school. In the 6th grade, there was a teacher.
You wouldn't think your family grew up and that would be the case. You were in public school.
Yes, of course. Well, my mother was raised in a very normal, down-to-earth upbringing, and she wanted us to have the same experience. Anyway, we had this exceptional teacher that, in public school you can't choose where your kid is going to go in which class.
Well, in private it sometimes
happens.
Yes.
But there was just a clamoring to always get into this classroom with this man, because he was writing original musicals for each class, had 2 per year.
Oh my.
And I ended up getting into the class, and he cast me, 1, as one of the lead characters, and 2, as the second musical. In the first musical, I was one of the lead characters, and in the second one, I was one of the supporting characters. I played the role of Babs Wawin. Baba Wawa.
Oh, wow.
So I was interviewing this student.
Let's hear your impersonation.
Baba Wawa. I just had to speak like I had a speech impediment,
Remember in that time when they had the rap Rem DMC, you talk too much and you never shut up?
Yeah.
You remember that song?
Yes.
See, now I'm finally getting somebody that's dated to understand that. I would tell my producer Marcus, he'd say, who, what? So Barbara Walters has been around so much. And was she an influence in you ever when you started to want to be involved in more than just an actress? Did you ever who would you say are the best interviewers possible? Because you do want to be a radio host, but you did go to school to understand that. Who do you think are the best?
I would say Barbara Walters, definitely. I would say...
what about Katie Couric? Do you like her?
Katie Couric, love her. She's actually a friend of mine.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
I've learned a lot from
Katie's
from
got to come on
her.
the show. I got to get to interview her and take it the twist. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Now she has her own talk show and is doing very well. But I would say, I think what happened is also I got bitten with the bug early. It was one of my passions and my dreams. I was blessed to be in this class and also perform in these plays and have so much fun. And then in high school, I went to a Catholic high school where the drama program, I was an athlete also. So I had to sort of choose between where I was going with my interests in high school. So I kind of just dropped being involved in any of the dramatic arts in high school. Okay. And then went on to college and started studying communications. And then I met my husband, fell in love, got married, had a baby, just not in that order.
And what we're going to have to do is take a break. When we get back, we're going to do more. We're going to talk more with Mary Amons. I have more questions, and she still didn't answer any more of her mentors in talk radio or talk show hosts. We'll be back in just a moment. We're back live from LA with Mary Amons, Real Housewives of DC, and I'm asking questions. And I already can tell you are a trained journalist. You know why? you don't always answer my questions. Ask Marcus. I get things out of people that they weren't even supposed to give up, but she's very trained, people. Very trained.
I have had some good media coaching for sure. I will say that was one of the things that Bravo TV gave us, was some really sound media coaching.
So there's another topic I would be interested in.
How to stay on my island and not get derailed and answer questions that I don't feel comfortable.
I asked some pretty interesting questions, but,
you're not making me feel uncomfortable.
No, but what about because you jumped from it?
Yeah.
I want to know who else you thought. Let me give you a story.
Yes.
And you like me coming back at the story. Well, I told my nephew, I never thought I'd be in radio and be okay at it. I'm never going to say I'm great. People say I'm pretty good, but
you are.
You know what they said? Well, thank you. That's an honor. As I was hearing from Kat Kramer's mother, Stanley Kramer's wife, saying I'm pretty good. But what was interesting about it was, my nephew said, you listened to Larry King every night, meaning when he was doing radio, all the time. When you're delivering newspapers at night, the New York Times, when you're in college, you always listen to radio. I was a big fan of Dan Patrick. I think that when you emulate and listen to the best, I'm going to say even conservative, I listen to Sean Hannity. I think Limbaugh has no training, but I think Sean does a fantastic job in the way he asks questions. Mm-hmm. There's certain people that, they just ask questions and they're not telling their true person. When we have this connection where I'm telling you more about you, you're more willing to answer. So who else do you think that you would emulate as a talk show host who you think that was very good? You said Katie Couric. You said definitely your grandfather. Mm-hmm. And who's the other? What about Oprah? Do you think she's pretty good?
Oh, yeah, Oprah. I no question, Oprah.
And we said Barbara Walters.
Barbara Walters. I have to say my probably my biggest, earliest influence from an external standpoint, just not my grandfather. I had such an affinity for Brooke Shields, and I still do.
Oh, really?
She really was like my teen hero. That I just wanted to be like her. I wanted to.
That's so
she was so influential. She was plastered all over. No, but I always had this funny.
I have a connection with Brooke, meaning I've not met her, but I have a publicist that represents her. That she was saying something that one of my family members was going through some depression. She said I should just get Brooke on the line to talk to her.
Definitely. Yeah, she's had her own journey and has been very vocal about how she's gone through it. But I just always looked up to her as a beautiful girl who's just a couple of years older than I am. She just made a really good track of, and she's very smart. She's pursued her studies, her studies at Princeton. She's a beautiful influencer. She's a great actress.
Yes.
She's evolved. I've just loved watching her evolve, and I just have always wanted to.
So you were always a fan of her movies? And
always, always, since Blue Lagoon.
Really? Oh, wow. Now we're definitely going back. We're going back big time.
That's where she really got her big start as an actress, mm-hmm. Yes. But I have to say that I have always intently watched all of the morning talk show news shows, like Today's Show, Good Morning America.
I think better than the local ones. The local ones are just nothing to watch. They do such a tremendous job. Robin Roberts is fantastic. That whole GMA is unbelievable.
I love Robin Roberts.
See, once I become a student of the game and I know I'm in this business, I watch all of them and I learn from them and see how they interact and ask for critiques and different things, because it's just like, they're just awesome.
I watch very carefully the 60 Minutes crew too.
Oh, yeah.
Leslie Stahl, I think, is brilliant. And she's had her own struggle with cancer and is back and doing the same thing for years and years and years. And ironically, you brought up Larry King. Larry King, if you ask Larry King who probably his biggest influence is in his career, it's Arthur Godfrey.
Wow.
Yes. Huge fan of Arthur Godfrey's.
And you know what Larry did is very interesting, someone told me about? Larry just knew about the guest, not know about the guest, just basically knew the topic and wanted to learn about them. Mm-hmm. He didn't want a bunch of prescribed questions.
Yes.
And I think that's what made him so good. And I started that way. It's hard doing book authors like that, but anybody else is very simple, because you pick a topic, you talk about it, and you listen to the person.
Right.
And that's what makes a good talk.
Well, I think it's so important. And for me, I know this is one of my talents, is to draw people out and to ask questions that are interesting, that we all want to know about. And I feel like you as well have a way of just putting people at ease, and it's just a conversation.
Exactly.
And you put,
And then I could get some information out of you. You what?
Yeah.
I don't even make sure you take that out. I'm just kind of kidding.
Yeah. But because you're so down to earth, honest, and authentic, it encourages your guests to be the same.
Where I find it amazing. I learned for so many people. So here's the question.
Yes.
You were influenced by Brooke Shields, so you made a change after high school. Then you decided to go into, did you go to acting school? Or did you?
I have studied acting at a conservatory. We have a wonderful program called the Studio Theater in D.C., and I've gone through some of their conservatory.
Oh, so what did you go for undergrad?
I did 1 year of college at Marymount studying communications, and then I got pregnant.
Oh, so you didn't?
Yeah, so I wasn't able to finish.
Oh my, that's interesting.
So I've just supplemented my education with some other.
So you went to acting school during that time at Marymount?
No, I did not study acting until I was in my 30s.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, because I really didn't have time. I mean, I have 5 kids, and I just was
right. Exactly. You need to tell my wife it's not too late when she can come right back into it once the kids get older, and I wish she could. That's the shout out to Jen, saying Jen is fantastic. It was funny. Here's one little story. I always have stories, and maybe that's why you guys are put at ease, because I do have stories.
That's right.
First time I did radio, it was on a college radio station, and I was one of my mentors. I said, listen to the show, and my wife was doing the pilot with me. Mm-hmm. He says, you were good, Neil, but she sounds like a radio person. And that was like, whoa. And wow. I wanted her to be my co-host forever. And then she said, I just don't. It's the humbling. I mean, she says, I wish I was involved in all those things. So you went and studied acting. Did you get any acting gigs? Have you gotten to work in acting?
Well, I kind of just did it because I wanted to follow through with my dream and my passion to pursue that field. I got a little busy, and I have done some local things, auditions, and I think the most important thing when you're getting into the field is to really learn how to deliver a monologue and have confidence and learn the game.
Yes,
it's a game. But my sister is also a very seasoned actress.
Oh, really?
My sister is 2 years younger than I am. She's gone through. She actually got her BFA out here at USC.
Oh wow! And isn't that what maybe you wanted to do? It sounded like if you wouldn't have met your husband, that would have been what you did.
That was the school that I wanted to go to. And
oh my! Has she been in anything?
She has done a bunch of commercials, and she's been on the road in some musicals. She performed. She lived in London for a while, and she performed at the British America Theatre. And she studied at the British American Dramatic Arts, BADA, and she's still pushing hard to do it. She too is a busy mom, so it's kind of hard. But it's something. If you're in DC, you can get involved in the local theater scene and some local commercials. But in order to take it to the next level, you really need to be in New York or LA.
Yeah, exactly.
And having kids makes it hard.
And DC doesn't have the acting like in Pittsburgh, where we're getting tons of stuff in Pittsburgh. We have. I don't know if that's going to change, but that's what they call it, the Little Hollywood in Pittsburgh.
Probably because there are tax benefits to production coming in.
So that's
really?
Going to change it, yeah.
Wow.
It's part of the governor.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting. Yeah. So we go from that process. So ultimately, you never got to do your dreams. You went to communications for 1 year. But now, thanks to this Real Housewives opportunity, now you can take that to the next level and go. Right. So here are my plans for you. Because remember, if you were listening to some of my interviews, I'm trying to be their agent.
Yes.
With some of the people.
I'm open.
The first thing you need to do your own talk show, because it's very interesting. I had Maya Angelou's niece on my show. She has a show on Blog Talk Radio, and she interviews all the top celebrities and different people, and she has her show, and it's very, very popular. You do a radio show like that, and then ultimately your book and the real part of the whole situation. And you need to act, because I can get you gigs, and you, I think you like LA.
I love LA.
It seems like I have connections in that world. I'm learning to get it because I'm just constantly talking to people.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not about the money as much as the opportunity.
Right. My belief is that if you pursue your passions, the money will come.
Right.
You should not be chasing money ever by working. You have to really figure out who you are, what your true purpose is, and the money is just a bonus behind it.
Exactly. So when you were just a housewife, we're not going to talk about Real Housewives. And see, I'm a lot of things.
I was just a housewife before the cameras.
Yeah, before the cameras. Would you say that you were put back in a position of just what your mom was in a way, and your grandmother was in a way? And did you relish? Did you enjoy that especially when you wanted those other dreams that were kind of put on hold? You had resentment because of that at all?
Well, I have to say that there's no better gift than to be a stay-at-home mom and to really focus on...
Listen to that, Jennifer. Yes, definitely.
A stay-at-home mom is a true gift, and it's a challenge because it can get taxing, it can get thankless. You feel like you're just working so hard and getting nothing out of it, but really to pour yourself into raising your kids. And I'm not saying anything against women that just valiantly juggle career and being a mom.
It's very challenging.
But I had a blessing of being able to stay home with my kids. And I came to a point in my probably early 30s after I gave birth to my number 5, where I started waking up thinking about what's my purpose.
Right.
Now that my whole true purpose has been nurturing and raising my family, and that'll always be the case as my number one purpose and priority.
Exactly.
But who am I outside of this role? And that was one of the things that really, I think, I missed some self-development and self-awareness in going through the typical track of what a woman does from college to career to motherhood and all of that. So I really am sort of waking up to my true purpose beyond my mothering role now in my 40s. And it's something that, and this is going to be very much a part of my book and my story, because I think there are many women that can share the same story, and I've learned some things along the way about what to do and what not to do, and how to really be your best and be able to have balance and maintain, some level of senility in your life.
Exactly.
Because you can just get so scooped up and overwhelmed in the role of raising a family. But now I have the opportunity to really explore my gifts and my talents.
Yes.
I'm circling back to my original dream of being an actress and a performer.
Right.
And The Real Housewives was really just a catalyst for me, an opportunity to just go, okay, here are cameras, and I'm going to be able to be myself. What a great way.
One thing that if I was your publicity agent, I'd say to you, every time this reality stuff comes out, Kardashian stuff, you should be going to the media and talking about it.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why, because you firsthand put that out there. We can't tell you about, I'm kind of not spoiling the book, I'm giving you a teaser in our interview, but there's a lot more to what she's going to do that's going to make it different.
Yes.
Because a lot of people that have been part of the Real Housewives experience love it and would relish it to the point that they like reality trash television. Mm-hmm. However, I think what you need to do is to constantly get you out in the media is when Kardashian does something stupid, when our good friends out in Jersey, which my wife loved the Real Housewives in New Jersey, and that's why I said I never interview a Real Housewife, and I've interviewed 2 so far, and we're working.
There's some good ones. There's some real down to good ones.
Leah Black's fantastic as well.
Yeah, she's great.
But the thing is, because I didn't know, because I'm learning more and more of the business of this, but that's really not reality. But you need to speak out in those ways as an expert for people to understand that. So that's one thing I was thinking about for you as well. But for our listeners, because and viewers, I know people always you're always interacting on Twitter. You're doing a lot of different things. So where can we find more information on you for them to get involved? Because you really do. You're involved with your fans, and that's great.
Yes, I think it's really important, and also that's another thing that I have fans. That's such a strange thing.
Well, I know
me.
for a fact, because when I tweet something out about you, it comes back with people saying they wish they were interviewed.
I'm so humbled to know that there are people out there that are following me and paying attention to what I have to say.
Exactly.
And that I have a true influence on them. And that's a huge responsibility.
I believe it is too.
I think it's really important to really be true and honest. And I think that's what people like about me is that I'm authentic and I'm not hiding anything.
Right.
But you can find me on Twitter, Mary Amons. I have a fan page on Facebook, my Mary Amons Facebook page. And then, of course, my charity that I run, Labels for Love, is labelsforlove.org. And I'm in development of my personal page. So it's maryamons.com is under development.
It's good you're saying under development, because I was meeting with a book publicist that my website needs to be completely redone. And I understand that, and there's so much time for different things.
Yes, and that's it. I mean,
but I appreciate you
thank
coming
you,
by,
Neil.
and thank you to GJ Reynolds that I got this one-on-one interview, and definitely check her out. And I know there's big things coming for you, so people have to check it out by going to my website, simplyg.com, all the different places, and again, all of Mary Amons. So thanks again.
Well, you are such a fun guy, and your presence, you're just ginormous in spirit and in stature and in fun, and just you're just a light in this world. So I'm really happy to be with you here in this building here in LA. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're watching Total Education with Neil and listening to Total Education Celebrity Show. We'll be back in just a moment.